Hello, it's Sarah Adedeji, host of A Transplant's Tale. And today I have my friend Leonte here with me, and we're just going to chat and have a great time. So enjoy the ride. Hello there.
Hey, Sarah.
How are you?
I'm great.
Good. So tell us about yourself. Who are you? Where were you born? And what brought you to Philly?
So I'm Leonte. I'm originally from West Palm Beach, Florida, and I moved here. I think 9 years.
Wow.
In March this year. And let's see. My background is after graduating from college, I worked in insurance, and actually worked in insurance for about 9 years, and I met you after my transition out of insurance, out of just in transition of like getting out of corporate America and just leaving behind this, what I felt was just like a very monotonous life. And so I found my way into insurance or into education in Philly.
Yeah, that's really cool. So how did you find out about the opportunity in education?
So interesting. So after the pandemic, the pandemic is what sparked my just like evolution. So during the pandemic, I'm like, all right, all these thoughts are going through my head, and I really thought we were all gonna die. Like I really did. And so at some point I was like, all right, if we all die, this is my thought process. If we all die, I'm going to spend the rest of my life working at a job I hate. And so that sparked me to just, you know what? All right, let me pick a date. And I picked the anniversary of my 3 years being at that particular company. And I was like, I'm going to pick a date in the future and just save up money and quit. And so I quit. And so for about a year and a half, I was just like funemployed, just staying at home, just figuring out what my interests were, figuring out my passions. And, you know, I just was cooking, eating food, doing stuff, you know. What I will say during that time of being funemployed, like I met a lot of creatives and just people that actually do things in the city. So people who are artists, people who do spoken word, people who put on workshops. And so what I liked about being funemployed is that there are so many things to do throughout the day, throughout the week, during the weekday where most people are at work. And so if I found a random event, I'm like, you know what, I'm not doing anything, let me go to it. So fast forward, one of my friends who also is a creative, she does spoken word, she was moving out. And because I just had so much time, I'm like, yes, I turned into a yes man. Like whatever I could find, I would just do it. And so she was moving out, I helped her move, and then one of her friends came and helped her move, and then me and her friend became friends.
Aww.
So through her, one random night, it was like a random Wednesday. She's like, yeah, girl, we're going to go to shrooms in Clark Park. And I was like, I'm doing it. So we ended up random, like Wednesday night doing shrooms. And I ended up meeting one of her friends who is like a big person in Philly. He throws events. He does artists. He hosts artists for events. And he, like in the same, kind of like the same time frame that we met, the guy that hired me reached out to him to say, hey, do you know anyone in Philly that could be a great person for this job? And he was like, oh, I just met this person.
Wow.
Literally within the last week. She would be great. And so he told me about the job. And at first I was like, I don't really know if I really want to go back to working, especially like in a very traditional 9-to-5 context. Right. But I saw what the job was, you know, being a nonprofit and being an admissions counselor for a nonprofit company. I was like, you know what? I think that'll fit what I want to do, because at the same time, I was eventually realizing that I think education is the right place for me. And I think teaching, well, I've always wanted to be a teacher low key, but like I never wanted to be a teacher in a traditional, not like traditional K through 12 environment. So I was like, I'll just do substitute teaching just to try it out. And so I really was already applying to be a substitute teacher. And then my friend hit me up, said, hey, I got this opportunity for you if you're interested. And I was like, and then I was like, wait a minute. I was already kind of doing or trying to, you know, be a substitute teacher. So I tried it out, and here I am.
That's really cool. Side note, though, like breaking the third wall real quick, substitute teaching is really a great way. Like if you have any interest in education at all, substitute teaching is really a great way to just like get to know the city that you're in and just get a feel for like the culture, because kids are like the culture holders really.
Seriously.
I substitute teach when I moved back home, and also substitute teaches when I was funemployed. That's how you say it.
Yep.
Unemployed here, like in between situations. And I feel like it was just a really good like way to just learn like the culture in the city. So yes to that. But then also, like, how cool is it that somebody that you met for like a week was like, you know what, I see something in you that would make a great candidate for this position.
Right.
So how was that transition from like, you know, going from insurance into like an educational setting? Like, obviously I'm sure it was better since you weren't happy there, but like,
yes,
how was it trying to learn and like translate those skills to that position?
It's a lot. I'll be honest. Education, it's a whole new language that you have to speak. I feel like education uses a lot of words that I don't really like. I get the context or I get the meaning, but it's still a lot of fluff to me. So like equity is a great word, or like DEI. You know, I'm just like, what? Like, what are y'all saying? But I will say I use the skills from insurance, especially during my time when I was selling insurance, to now as an admissions counselor, because it is a lot of selling.
Absolutely.
Like, you really are selling your program, selling what your organization offers. So that is, I think, one of the biggest reasons why they're like, I think you'd be great for this, because I have that insurance or that sales background. So it's been a challenge to wrap my head around just all the different facets of insurance. And I will say, education. I will say, though, I'm still learning about Philly, and education really helped with that. Like you said, like, education is such a big part of what builds the culture of a city. And so coming into education is like, things that I didn't know, and I've been here for almost 9 years. I'm like, whoa. Yeah. So, for example, I didn't know, but Philly is the poorest big city in America.
Wow.
And I was just like,
wow,
that's crazy.
I never even would think about like that being a statistic, but I guess, wow.
Right. And it puts into context, it helps me understand how it is that we have students that have graduated from high school and don't know how to read, you know, and you think of America, you think of all these different things of what we envision our country as, but it's just like, that's a very glaring statistic where it's just, it puts a lot of things into context.
Absolutely. So, yeah, that's really cool. So do you want to tell us, I know it's not like a commercial for your organization, but do you want to tell us the motto of your organization and like how that is like kind of helping shape that or provide support in that area?
Yeah,
I feel like it is really impactful what you all are doing there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I work for an organization called College Together, and what we do is we offer students the opportunity to get a degree without taking any tests or exams. So the curriculum is 100% project-based. It's also self-paced. So, you know, what we've also seen is a lot of students want to go to college, but the flexibility of have to take care of my kids, I have to work a job, things like that. It provides the student the flexibility to work on their own schedule. And then in addition to that, if a student does get the Pell Grant, which most people in Philly are getting the Pell Grant, it completely covers our tuition. So our tuition is priced at a point where it's right under the Pell Grant. So if a student gets it, they're not coming out of pocket for a degree. So we do offer associate degrees and bachelor degrees. And it's another thing where I will say the community college here in Philadelphia is actually not that great of a community college. You know, it's kind of low on the scale of community colleges. So out of like, let's just say 250, I don't know the exact number, but out of 250, it's like 225. Oh, wow. Which is crazy too. So speaking with a lot of educators, they're not pleased with the options that are here, especially when the colleges here in Philadelphia are not taking Philadelphia students. So we're here to just give Philadelphia students another alternative, you know, something different, something where they have that support, they have academic coaches, they have mentors, and they have someone that's in their corner that wants to see them do well, as opposed to just going to, you know, a larger institution where they become a number. Absolutely. So, yeah.
That's really important. Thank you for sharing that. You're welcome. So on that wave of like admissions, that's actually how we met.
Mm-hmm.
So I was in admissions at Cabrini, which is sadly closing soon. I hate to see that, but I guess to everything there's a season, but it is really sad to see. And so Cabrini and College Together, of course, were together because Cease. So it was really cool and organic how we met, in the sense that most times that I found friends, because finding friends as an adult, whether you're transplant or not, is hard. We understand that as adults.
Yes, it is.
So most of the times I was very intentional about going and finding a young adult group, or finding a church, or finding these different meetup or different things where I was intentionally finding friends in these spaces. But I guess I say all this to say, don't be afraid to talk to strangers. So we were literally tabled next to each other, and I was like, she seems cool. So we just started talking and have hit it off from there, brunch and just hang out and everything from there. So I think it's really cool how organic some friendships can just be. So being open and to those options and talking to strangers, like I said, obviously some strangers are a little crazy, but thankfully she was not. And it turned out really cool that way. So that's awesome. So what are some other ways that you got connected with people? Since 9 years is a long time, so I'm sure you made a lot of different connections. I know part of it was COVID, so that put a halt on things, but
Right.
You talked a little bit about it earlier, but what were some other ways that you went about making connections and kind of creating your community to sustain you while you were here?
Yeah, when I first moved, I definitely went on the meetups. I don't know if that site still exists or not, but
I think so.
maybe. I feel like things have changed so much.
Yeah.
But Meetup was a great first place to meet people when I first moved here. Let's see. Work friends, obviously, when I do see other people like me at work, it's hey girl, you're cool.
Right.
And one thing that I loved about Philly when I first moved here, or just in general, is that there's a great music scene, and I love concerts. So I will say, and it's crazy because it was right in 2019. 2019, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go to concerts by myself. I went to 16 concerts in 2019.
Wow.
Yeah. And most of them I went to by myself. And so just being at concerts, I would meet other people and they would see me there by myself. And it's wait, you're by yourself. And so I think people would see you be by yourself, they would feel compelled to talk to you for whatever reason. Right. I've met other women who were by themselves, and it's oh my god, you're by yourself? No, I'm by yourself. It's the Spider-Man meme was wait a minute. Or just other friends that I met, they just saw me there, and it's hey, you seem cool, you can come stand, I'm short, so they'll be you can stand here. So I definitely met people at concerts that became friends. And let's see, I did have a lot of friends who I knew in college that moved here.
Nice.
So they were also transplants, and obviously we're all transplants here together.
Yeah.
And then something that kind of, I don't know how I came about this opportunity, but I used to be the influencer, if you want to call it that, for this site called I Don't Do Clubs.
Oh, I've heard of that.
You've heard of that?
Yeah, I follow them on Instagram, actually.
Yes, yeah. So I followed them because my best friend lived in New York, and so she kind of connected me with them. But then at some point, the girl who was running it wanted to expand the site to other cities. So she sent out an email. She's I'm looking for influencers to run the I Don't Do Clubs.
Oh.
And so I applied. I was just in my room bored, and I was I'll apply. I'm not qualified. And it's funny because I wasn't even living in Philly at the time. I was living in South Jersey because I worked in Jersey, and that was a 6-month time that I was in Jersey. And so I was I'm gonna apply because I'm bored. And so I did it, and then I got it. And so next thing you know, I'm the Philadelphia influencer for I Don't Do Clubs. And that turned into people who would throw events, be hey, I know you're the influencer. Here's 2 free tickets to come to my event, come to my show, whatever. And it's crazy because, again, I wasn't even living in Philly at the time. So I was I feel like a fraud.
I ran on across that bridge.
So cool. I think that also catapulted me into just meeting so many other people. And so after the I Don't Do Clubs time, during that time, I don't know how I got into this group meet. I just ended up in a random group meet of people who were all transplants, but most of them went to college together. Most of them went to Howard, and so they kind of formed a group meet, and then in the group me, one of the guys, he hosted ski trips. Not only ski trips, he's actually currently I don't know what his official title is, but he's like the nightlife coordinator of Philly.
Oh, wow.
And before this, he would host trips. So he would have a ski trip or a lake trip. He did trips in Dubai, Egypt, like just all over. So that was kind of his thing. Like he was like a trip person. He would just do the trip. And then went on one of those trips, and now I've met a bunch of people in Philly, New York, DC, like just all over. And so, yeah, that was kind of like my friend group for a while, and I was hanging out with them. It got old after a while because it was a lot of drinking and partying, and I stopped doing that. Around 2019 when I went to concerts, I was like, I'm evolving myself. I'm doing something new. So
right in time for us to be in the house for
exactly.
a year and a half.
Perfect timing. So yeah, I feel like I've had so many iterations of myself just being in Philly, you know, even how when I moved here with someone. Right. I know we didn't get to that yet, but
we can talk about that next.
Okay. Yeah, so I just feel like I've had so many different identities of myself being here, and I've evolved in so many different ways. So yeah.
So since you brought it up, let's go ahead and get into it. What or who, as you say, brought you to Philly, and then how did you decide, like, well, I don't want to do a spoiler, but how did you decide to continue your journey in Philly, you know?
Yeah, so I'll say this.
Yeah, you don't have to tell us all your business, girl, you know.
I think that something called me to Philly. Okay. I really do, because the first time I ever visited Philly, it was in college, and I did this organization called Monster Diversity Leadership Program. Oh, wow. And they would have leadership events all throughout the United States, and you could pick wherever you wanted to go. Oh. And so I was like, you know what? I just want to go to Philly. They had an event in Philly, and I booked it. I came. Yeah. And so it was actually in Villanova, and that was my first time coming here, so it wasn't technically Philly, but whatever. And it's funny because the whole event took place in Villanova, so I didn't even come to the city. I just wanted, something just said, I just want to go to Philly and do this program in Philly. It was a weekend. It wasn't even that long, but I wanted to do it in Philly. So that was my first time ever coming here.
That was a very different experience than where we are now.
Right. So fast forward, when I was in Florida. So after I graduated from college, I'm working in insurance. I hated the corporate life from day one. Like, I remember very early on, I was just like, this is it. Like, I went to college for this. Like, it was just like waking up the same time every day, having the same conversation every day. It was a kind of a call center kind of job. So I'm literally saying the same thing every day, and it just got old real quick. And so when I met this guy, he was from the South Jersey area, Philly, South Jersey area. We met while he was still in Florida. And then while I was living, I'm from West Palm Beach, but I was living in Sanford, Florida, which is outside of Orlando. So it's not even quite Orlando, it's outside of Orlando. Okay. So I was just like, yeah, when he moved back here, obviously, you know, long distance relationship, at some point somebody got to move. Right. He didn't really like Florida, and I was like, you know what? I don't have anything keeping me here in Florida. I don't really love this job. I don't really love being here. Why not move? And clearly I was open to the idea of coming to Philly. So we moved here. We literally lived in Philly on Broad Street. Like, I was living in like the city, had a nice little like studio apartment. Yeah. And that relationship lasted for like 9 months.
Wow. So wow.
Well, like, the whole relationship was like 3 years, but us living together lasted for like 9 months. Okay. Yeah, that was
so
quick.
Like the BP, like beyond Philly, was like, you know. Gotcha.
Yeah. Wow. And then after that ended, that's when, because I was working at a company, Liberty Mutual, and then I ended up just transferring the position to the South Jersey office. So I would drive to Jersey from Philly every day. And so when we ended things, I was like, you know, I'll just move to Jersey. Seemed appropriate. Yeah. And then there was craziness there. So I ended up moving back. Oh. And then when I moved back, yeah. So. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So when you moved back, you were like, you know what? Even though this didn't work out, what made you like stay and say, let me just try Philly instead of like moving somewhere else, or just, you know?
I don't know. Yeah. I didn't. Well, okay. The biggest thing I think led me to being okay with moving from Florida was that all of my friends from high school, college were all in like New York, DC, Atlanta, and I'm like, what am I still doing in Florida? Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to be here. I want to be a big girl and live in the city, you know, do the brunch thing. And so I think that's why I like Philly, because it was a great location where I could go to New York. My best friend lived in New York at the time. I could go there and see her. I could still go to DC. Philly in and of itself has a lot to offer.
Right.
And so even though things didn't work out, I still felt safe here. And I have family here too, so I do have extended family here in Philly.
That's nice.
So I think that helped, because it wasn't like I was here by myself. You know, I still have cousins here that I can reach out to if I needed to.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's what kept me here. It's just knowing that I'm living a life that I never dreamed that I just never thought that I would live. You know, coming from Florida, especially Sanford area, where everything was very homogenous, if you will. And then it's like Philly is just very different. There's a lot. There's literally a place or a culture for you that you can find yourself here. And it just has so much to offer. In addition to, even if I got tired of Philly, New York is there, DC is there. So
That's always really nice. And I feel like with Philly, it's nice that you can kind of, like you said, kind of just find your space. Like I do not want to live in the city, like the city.
Yeah.
But I'm in Mount Airy, so it's like I can access the city when I need to.
Right.
But it still feels like I'm kind of like in the suburbs while still living in the city. So I think it is nice that you kind of have like that balance. And like you said, you can kind of find just like your people and your place. Like it's like a nice salad bowl. That's a term I learned in my admissions time and working with the DEI office, making sure that, you know, we are treating everybody and like having those real conversations. And so I love how she mentioned it. Layla, if you're watching, hey. She mentioned like a salad bowl as opposed to a melting pot, because the Mexican melting pot, everybody kind of like melts and assimilates, like, you know, to one culture. But with the salad bowl, you're bringing in all these different variants and kind of celebrating, and like you kind of get all your different flavors, but it all blends well together.
I like that analogy.
Yeah, and I feel like Philly is really good about that. And it, you know, and on the grand scale of things, like being a salad bowl, like we still get to celebrate, we still get to like have all these different cultures, all these different like lifestyles and everything, but it blends all well together.
Yeah.
In a beautiful city. So that's really cool. So what is something that you wish somebody would have told you before you like made the move?
The taxes.
No, that's right.
I remember, because I kept the same job, but they had a pay differential, so you got paid more to be here. So, you know, when I got my first paycheck, I'm like, ooh, I'm about to get a raise. I didn't have to do anything. Man, I looked at my paycheck, and I was just like,
even less.
And it's funny because it was in South Jersey, but my boss at the time lived in Philly. And so I was like, hey, where's the rest of it? And so she was like, oh, yeah, Philly taxes. And I was like, nobody told me about that.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, granted, it wasn't that big of a deal as far as like money and stuff, but
it's just like, oh, wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
And then I was working in Radnor and had the Philly tax because I lived in Philly and worked in Radnor, so you had the Radnor tax and the Philly tax. So yeah, I get it. I definitely get it. So if you could go back and like talk to yourself, like, so you yourself today are talking to yourself like on your road. Like, did you drive here? Did you fly here?
I drove here.
Okay, so like you're doing, how far is that drive, first of all?
15 hours.
Okay. So yeah, mine was about 18 and a half, so I get it. And so
wait, from
Kansas City, Missouri.
Jeez.
Yeah, because I guess like Florida's right here, so you just like drive up.
Yeah.
But then like Missouri is like right here, so you drive like that way.
Okay.
So I guess that's what, I don't know. But so as you're like taking this 15-hour drive and your voice comes on the radio, what do you want to hear from like yourself? Like, what do you feel like you would have been important to talk to like throughout your whole journey?
I would say just I could hear myself telling myself it's gonna be a journey, and it's still a journey. Philly, it taught me a lot. Like, I really grew up here in the sense that Florida was where I was born, but Philly like matured me.
I was just telling somebody that yesterday.
Yeah.
Real. Yeah, that's real. And then, so what are some things, like, because you mentioned that it's a journey, so like what are some things that kept you encouraged, like kept you focused, whether it's a quote, a song, a scripture, whatever the case may be, like and it could be multiple things if you want, but like what were some things that just like kept you going and kept you grounded and like said, okay, just keep going, like keep taking the next step?
Yeah. The Wissahickon. I love the Wissahickon. Just having, and I think coming from Florida where I have the beach, you know, it's gorgeous, but learning how to adapt to what's here and be appreciative of the nature that's here. I'm a Florida girl, I'm a beach girl, so yes, I love the beach and I miss the beach. But one thing I like about Philly is that there's so much like trees and greenery and like forest. And I didn't realize the Wissahickon even existed until the pandemic.
Oh wow.
Because living in Germantown, I would just go to work, and I was living in Germantown and then going to KOP every day. So just going to work, coming home, going to work, coming home. And so the pandemic really allowed me to step outside of this very strict and rigid structure where I had the free time to like go and explore. So the Wissahickon, I used to go to the Wissahickon every day, like rain, snow, just go, because it was my grounding activity. And so yeah, that, and then every day driving home, my job, I ended up working a 12 to 8 schedule. So that was good too, because I got to, when everyone else is at work, like I got the first couple of hours to just like do my thing. So while I would drive home, I would always listen to the same song. And that was, it was 2 songs. One of them was Big Crit every time, but the other song that I still listen to this day is Harder Than My Demons by Big Sean. That is my song. Like,
that's real.
Harder Than My Demons. Yeah.
That's really good. That's really good. So is there anything else you want to tell the people? Anything else you want to talk about? Or
I would say if you are looking to be a transplant or go somewhere else, I would say have discernment of where you feel called to. I think that there, especially with social media, there's a lot of ideas and things where you're like, oh, this looks cool because of a certain way somebody take a picture or whatever. But if you feel called to a certain place, go for it. And also listen to that discernment. And then I would say don't be afraid to step outside of your comfort zone, in the sense that you don't have to have a friend group to go. Just go, just explore your passion, see what's out there, and don't be afraid to do it alone.
That's real, because that's how you're going to find your people. If you're willing to go alone, that's something you're really passionate about, and you're going to find the people there that are also passionate about that thing, and it's going to be beautiful. Well,
and then also, my last thing is, even though you may not feel qualified, do it anyways, because there's so many things that I got it. Obviously, I got the positions, but in my head, I was like, I don't know if I'm the right person. I don't know if I should do it, but it led me to doing the I Don't Do clubs. It led me to my job now. So I guess that's imposter syndrome, just like getting over that. Like,
girl,
just
that's
go
what
for
we
it.
right now in the season that we're currently in. We love it. We love it. We love it. I receive it. So thank you so much for just being here.
Thank you for having me.
All your wisdom and your energy. I just appreciate you. So thanks so much. And thank you all for watching A Transplant's Tale. We'll see you next time. See ya. Thank you all so much for watching A Transplant's Tale. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.